Welcome back for Vlogtober day 7. Happy Saturday, happy start of the weekend. Hope you are having a lovely day. I just got back from running some errands and it is finally fall weather here. It has been in the 80s for the last week and then finally yesterday it dropped. And this morning it is 48 degrees. I think it is supposed to get into the high 50s today and that is perfect fall weather for me. I love it. Finally get to wear a sweatshirt today instead of a t-shirt, so that's also very exciting, which I know white is not my color. White and black are not my colors. I'm a light spring, doesn't work for me, washes me out. However, I love this sweatshirt anyway, and it is in fact a Sanderson sister sweatshirt. Again, like my purple shirt that I love, this is from Fiction Bath Co. and I love it. I don't work there or have any sort of affiliate link for there or anything. It's just like their clothes are so comfortable. But the topic of today's Vlogtober video is the things that I have spent the most on in my practice throughout the years and how alternatively you can save money so you don't make my same mistakes. I think for all of us that spending on witchcraft items is such an easy trap to fall into because everything just looks beautiful, you think that you need it, you get so excited about different paths and options. There's just so much out there to explore and it makes you want to buy all the things that go with it. And I do enjoy things, I enjoy tools, I have a lot of witchcraft items. I always say on the podcast that you actually don't need anything, you just need your energy and your intention and you're ready to go to be a witch. It's just that the tools can make it a little bit easier. But every sort of path and option has their own different tools, so it can be very easy to spend a lot of money very quickly. And I know a lot of people are feeling that way, especially in October, because there is just a plethora of stuff available. Plus, everybody is sort of diving into that witchy season and you see like a lot more things on social media, just like fun ideas to try and things you haven't thought of before, and it makes you want to go buy even more stuff. So I'm going to talk about some of the things that I have definitely spent too much money on since I started practicing and give you some alternatives or things that you could look into to save that money. Let's start with the most obvious, and that is books. I have absolutely spent the most on books over anything else in my practice, and I love books. I just got back from the library, but you saw my haul, and a lot of those were fiction books, but they are witchcraft books as well, and I am always buying witchcraft books. Now, I have to say, I love them. I love having the books, referring to them, getting the ideas, supporting the authors. I love books. There's nothing wrong with books and buying books, but the prices add up quickly. So I thought I would give you some ideas for how to save a little bit of money if that is an area that you struggle in as well. And first up, if you can get a copy, a digital copy or a library copy of some sort before committing the money, that is absolutely the way to go. I am lucky enough to live in a big city that has a giant library. I used to work and go to school right by the Harold Washington Library downtown, which has over 1 million books. It's like 10 floors and I think it's 70 miles of shelving in there, and it's just the best place to hang out, and they have tons of witchcraft books there. And even though I am not by that library anymore, I am still in the city limits of Chicago, and they have the intra-library program where you just put it on hold, request the book, and they will ship it to your local library and you can go pick it up there. And Chicago in general just ranks in the top 5, maybe top 3. I know that New York City and Boston have bigger libraries as a whole of like how many volumes they have than Chicago, but Chicago might be 3. But it's definitely in the top 5. So I know that helps a lot, but there are still witchy options available even if you don't live in one of these big cities. And especially if you are interested in those things that I talked about in my broom closet witchcraft video that are a little less obviously witchy, like plants and herbal medicine. The library costs you nothing. You are already paying for it in your property taxes. So make use of it, and libraries get funding based on how many patrons they have and how often they are being used for their services. So the more you go to the library, the more books that they are going to get in. And I don't know about libraries in other locations, but Chicago is really good about answering my requests. I think that I must request more than anybody else because they usually email me back directly. But you can submit a request online for them to pick up a certain book and have that in stock and add that to their collection. And a lot of the times the librarian will respond to me directly and be like, it's coming. We promise. You're just too early to request it. It's not even published yet, but come back in 3 months and we're gonna have it for you. So remember that you can request books as well. There are plenty of books that I have picked up first at the library or gotten an ebook version of, and then decided to spend the money anyway and commit to owning it. But at least I got the free version first. But in the beginning, it was harder to get stuff at the library. There weren't as many options. There just weren't as many books being published at all on the topic of witchcraft. But now there are tons of options. So I am spending less, but I still am spending money. It's just that like I make better decisions, because in the beginning I was just buying books that were related to this topic and I didn't end up liking them, ended up giving them away. So now I'm better about checking it out first and only spending the money when I know that I want to add it to my collection, and I'll reference it again and again. If you are interested in new books, then definitely head over to NetGalley. If you are a book reviewer, even if you don't have, you know, a platform, YouTube or podcast or something, you can still just review books on Goodreads and be approved for NetGalley. And NetGalley actually has a bunch of publishers that do witchcraft books, and those are available on there. I have been accepted for a few that I am reading through right now. Those are almost always digital copies, but it is a great way to get new material, and then you can always get a physical copy later if you love it that much. And just in general, tips for books is to just be diligent about what you buy so you don't regret it later. Check that there is a bibliography. Most books have them. There are a few exceptions where I think they don't need a bibliography. I've mentioned before that Veronica Varlow's book, Bohemian Magic, doesn't have a bibliography, and I am okay with that because the entire book is her perspective of magic passed down in her family, particularly from her grandmother, so that there's not exactly going to be a bibliography for that information. Her bibliography is grandma. But most of the time, books are getting their information from someplace, so they should have some sort of bibliography. So that's a great way to check that it's a good resource, and then also use that bibliography to find further works that you might be interested in. Definitely recommend opening the book beyond the title and the cover. I always get sucked in by a beautiful cover or a fun title, but that is not the end-all be-all to books, and sometimes they do not match up, and there's just a beautiful cover and the inside information is just not great or not what I'm looking for. So always open it. And if you are able to check reviews, there are usually reviews on Amazon or on Goodreads, so you can see if the information contained in there is going to line up with what you're looking for, so you're just not wasting money on a book that's not going to end up working for you. And books are definitely my biggest section and biggest expense, my favorite thing to spend money on, but there are a few other things that I wanted to mention in this video. Next up is candles. It can be very easy to spend on candles because there are a lot available online that are already dressed and enhanced with intention for you. So they might already have herbs and crystals in there. They might already be blessed with a specific intention, like a money candle. So the more that is already done for you, the higher in price that's going to be. Sometimes I enjoy that. Sometimes, you know, when I go to a handmade market, there will be a stand there that has candles like that, and I enjoy supporting the makers. But because those are handmade items, the price does go up. So you just have to keep that in mind and sort of balance that out, because I then use those candles for specific special instances and not just as a representation of the fire element or as an everyday quick burn candle. I'd rather use something a little more inexpensive for that. So if you are also looking to add in some candles, definitely go the dollar store route. They have the pillar candles that come in glass. They have birthday candles, tea light candles. You can get a pack of tea light candles on Amazon for relatively cheap, and then you can dress those yourself. So you can add your own oil on the outside and put your own herbs on there, your own crystals. So it's a little more work on that end, but will save you money in the long run. And of course, if you are using it just for the ambiance, for setting the stage, so to speak, for your spell work, or just as the representation of the fire element on your altar, then you can always go with a flameless candle and just get one of the battery operated ones. So you won't be able to, you know, dress those like you would a candle that you're going to burn down, but they are perfectly acceptable for using as that fire element representation and are especially good if you are in a place where you can't even burn candles. Next up that I think I have spent quite a bit on is herbs. Herbs are an easy thing to collect. There are so many different options, and when you look at like a book of correspondences, there are just so many herbs listed that have different intentions, different specific things, and it makes you really want to collect all of them. And a lot of times if you hop online to order, they come in big bulk sizes, and it takes a really long time to go through those. So unless you are dedicated to a practice of herbalism and making pretty much everything for yourself, you're gonna take a very long time to go through a 1 pound bag of herbs. I have a big collection that I am still working through. I think that's gonna be a 2024 goal, is to work through more of what I have and kind of just use up the stores. So as far as saving money, I definitely recommend going the smaller size route. I'm lucky enough to have witchcraft stores nearby, but you may just have the produce and spice aisle at your grocery store. That's fine too, but I recommend just picking up a smaller size option. Foraging, if you can, is a great option as well, but however you choose, just go with a smaller size. And I know that it seems like if you get a bag of herbs that's only about this big, an ounce or two from your local witchcraft store, it might be $5, and that might seem like, oh my gosh, I'm spending so much, and if I buy it in bulk, then it's just like pennies on the dollar. But that is only gonna save you money if you are gonna work through it and not waste it. I also recommend looking long and hard at that correspondence list, because a lot of them will overlap and work for a lot of different intentions. There are a lot of things in the mint family, for example, that overlap. So I don't personally feel that I need peppermint and spearmint and pennyroyal. I'm just picking one mint option. That's not true. I have multiple mint options, but as an example, if I wanted to scale back, I could just pick one of those and cover a lot of the same bases. So if you just want a couple of herbs and don't really want to dive into a full herbalism practice, try to pick one main one from each category that you're going to use and dedicate yourself to. It also helps you get to know the herb better. So if you just want to pick one that's related to protection, one that's related to self-love, something for motivation, for abundance, whatever you find yourself doing the most workings for, then you'll absolutely save yourself money and be able to get to know that herb really well. Next that I have been very guilty of spending on, which you can totally see behind me, is divination supplies. There are so many different methods of divination that I'm covering in this section. So that includes tarot and oracle decks. You just saw me unbox this one over here. I have another tarot deck. I have a Halloween oracle. I have the Woodland Warden's oracle, Glowwood oracle, and those things definitely add up. But I'm not just talking about decks. It's also very easy to collect pendulums, crystal balls, different tea options. So there are a lot of different ways that you could spend money in this category. And in order to save, I definitely recommend, first of all, trying a DIY option. You don't have to go out and buy a pendulum. A pendulum is just a weight on a string. So you can absolutely make your own. Get a piece of yarn and go outside and find an acorn or pine cone and tie that to your yarn. There you go, totally free. You have a pendulum instead of having to go out and purchase one. Same with tarot and oracle. If you are crafty, you can make your own. If you're not, you can use a deck of cards and try your hand at playing card divination instead. You can use free methods as well. There is black screen divination. So when your TV or phone is turned off, that is a reflective black screen there that you can scry with. You can scry with water or fire, like a candle flame. You can read the wax as well after the candle has burned down. You can use like a mirrored surface with water on top. A lot of different items around your house can be used for scrying and divination that are completely free. So I recommend starting with those free items to see what you like best, because you might work with a tarot deck and find that you don't like it at all. And tarot just doesn't work for you. You might instead find that you love the idea of the reflective surfaces and that has worked really well for you, and then you can invest in a nice crystal ball. And while there are pros and cons of each type, you are ultimately getting to that same destination point with divination. And yes, pendulums are better for yes or no answers, and you are going to get more specific information with tarot, but you can really use just one method and stick with that. And the last thing that I have personally spent a lot of money on is grimoires. And part of the reason for that is because of that scrapbook style that I showed in a video last month that I'm going to be working on. And that's sort of like a project that I've dedicated myself to. And that is going to take some resources. But even beyond that, I have spent money on grimoires over the year because I like the ones that have the sort of, faux leather covers and have aged pages, and those just take a little more money and effort to make, so the end product costs more. And I'm not very crafty, so I'm not good at like making a book like that myself. So I have been guilty about spending money on that, because a grimoire is something that I sort of fill it as my practice goes along and then close it up and move on to the next one. And I'm constantly documenting what's going on in my journey, which I think is important. But I could easily use a notebook from the dollar store for that. I do not need to keep investing in these big grimoires. So that's kind of what I've done over the years, and how I'm committing to that scrapbook style one, because that is something that I'm going to spend more time and effort on, and then just using dollar store journals to note down my practice. And also going with my digital grimoire template, I am having much more success with that over on Notion, just having like the daily entries and putting everything in there. Absolutely saving me a ton of money on that front. And I have long been spending money on pretty journals and planners, especially. I've always been guilty of that. That is something I think might go hand in hand with books, because they tend to be sold at the same place. So let me know if that is you as well. If you are sucked in by spending on books, are you also sucked in by stationery? I always have been. And there is something to be said for like a good looking notebook and journal if it's going to make you use it. But I have often fallen into that trap of productive procrastination, where I think that like this pretty journal and planner, like I'm writing stuff in it, so I'm using it and I'm getting stuff done, but I'm not actually getting stuff done, I'm just writing stuff down. So I am currently on a notebook buying ban. So yes, best way to save money there is to pick up the cheaper options for a journal. You don't need anything fancy or expensive with thick aged pages, or to go the digital route. That's everything. Those are the things that I personally have spent the most money on. Do let me know in the comments what you have spent the most money on, and if you need any tips and tricks for how to save in that area, I will see if I can help you out there as well. That is everything for Vlogtober day 7. I will see you tomorrow for day 8, which I think is going to be a reading vlog, because that's going to be my afternoon, hopefully this afternoon, and to chat a little bit about coffee magic. I will see you then.